Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Jon Jr. And of course, wouldn't be a Thursday evening breaking down part one without my guy here, Greg Penniman. Greg, what's good, man?
What's goody? Just Thursday night. We're doing it right before the game, so gonna have a nice time to see the entire Cowboys Saints game tonight. But yeah, we got a lot of games this weekend. 4 teams on bye. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
100%. We've got Cleveland, Tennessee, Carolina,
and the Packers.
There we go.
Sir.
All 4 teams on bye.
I didn't know the other 3, and I just knew the 4th one. There it is.
Well, there we go. This is why we make beautiful music together, my brother. So please do not put those players in a fantasy lineup because they will not get you any fantasy points, unfortunately. However, as Greg said, Thursday Night Football, by the time you listen to this, probably will have already taken place. But you can go back and listen to that Thursday night preview and see what we got right, a little Jordan Humphrey, some Zeke Elliott over a hundo, I'm saying. But obviously we're breaking down the 1 p.m. games. Tomorrow, you can catch us, not tomorrow, it's going to be Saturday, but you can catch us breaking down the remaining games, obviously doing starts of the week and all that cool stuff. But right now, it's all about the 1 p.m. games, so let's get into the action. First off, we got the 5-6 Minnesota Vikings traveling to Detroit. Take on the 0-10-1 Detroit Lions. This game has a 46.5 point total according to FanDuel Sportsbook. The Minnesota Vikings are 7-point favorites. This game is played in a dome. In terms of injuries, on the Detroit side, Deandre Swift, he's most likely out as he's dealing with that shoulder injury that he suffered on Thanksgiving last Thursday. So he's day-to-day with that injury. Dalvin Cook, for the Minnesota Vikings, he's also out, expected to be out, as he's also dealing with a shoulder injury that's expected to keep him out. The Vikings they've been somewhat, mum on this, but there seems to be some optimism coming out of there. I personally would plan to be without Dalvin Cook for the rest of the fantasy year. I would not drop him or anything. I would wait till we get some official word or anything like that. But that's kind of the approach that I would take there with Dalvin Cook. On the defensive side of the ball, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, both linebackers from Minnesota, they were both DNP on Thursday. So something to watch there for the Minnesota defensive side. In terms of this game here, I am going to take the over here. I'm going to actually take Detroit to cover. I will not take Detroit to win, however. I'll take Minnesota to do that. For the Detroit side is Jamal Williams. He's probably going to get the start here for DeAndre Swift. So he's a volume-based RB2 for me this week and a good matchup. So that gives him some RB1 upside right there. TJ Hawkinson, we talked about him yesterday in the confidence levels. He's a lower-end tight end 1 for me this week with a tough matchup against Minnesota, a Minnesota defense that's been handling tight ends pretty much all season long. And then Josh Reynolds on the Detroit side has some sneaky upside. He leads this team in air yards, so he is the downfield presence. No DeAndre Swift. TJ Hawkinson in a bad matchup. I think Josh Reynolds has some sneaky upside here in this one. On the Minnesota side, Justin Jefferson absolutely been killing it these last few weeks. Just continue to roll him out there as an absolute wide receiver 1. Adam Thielen is continuing to play as a wide receiver 2 that could put up wide receiver 1 weeks, especially when he gets in the end zone. Kirk Cousins is going to be a lower end QB1 for me this week, just based on the competitive nature of this game. Alexander Mattison filling in for Dalvin Cook is an RB1 for me based on the matchup alone. But he also filled in really well for Dalvin Cook earlier in the year, so I expect that to continue.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Minnesota to cover and Minnesota to win. I really like Minnesota in this matchup. Madison is start of the week potential in this one. We know how bad Detroit's rush defense is. Madison's just been a great fill-in for Cook. You kind of couldn't even tell the differences here with the, the performances they both put up when one is in and one is not. I do love Kirk Cousins and this entire offense. Jefferson and Thielen both have wide receiver one upside as far as the category. And yeah, it's pretty much in the Minnesota side. I think they're just going to dominate in this game. Detroit, Jamal Williams, he's going to fill in. He's got value because there's no Swift. He's going to get the bulk of the carries and the touches, so I have him as a low end RB2. Hawkinson, I agree, as low end no one tight end one. Hopefully he gets even more targets in this one with no Swift. And yeah, Josh Reynolds, man, he's coming in, got some deeper league value. So definitely a play in some deeper leagues.
For sure, man. Moving on to this next game. Again, Sunday, 1 p.m., as all these games that we're covering right now are. 9-2 Arizona Cardinals traveling to Chicago to take on the 4-7 Chicago Bears. This game has a 45.5-point total. The Arizona Cardinals are 7.5-point favorites. There is expected to be rain in this game, so be on the lookout for that. But big news for Arizona: wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins and quarterback Kyler Murray, both expected to return to action this week after a long layoff. Chase Edmonds not set to return this week, but according to head coach Cliff Kingsbury, could return in week 14. So that's just a note there, just in case, I've seen Chase Edmonds available in at least a couple of my own leagues. So he's out there in your leagues. He's a nice add to make ahead of his return next week. On the Chicago side, Justin Fields dealing with a few cracked ribs. He was a limited participant in practice. I'm anticipating Andy Dalton gets to start this week, but obviously got to see how that situation sorts itself out as the week goes on. Cole Kmet at tight end, limited participant with a groin injury, and then Allen Robinson has been a DNP with his hamstring, so definitely not counting on him. Greg, what say you in regards to this matchup?
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Arizona to cover and Arizona to win. Definitely continue to keep an eye on both D-Hop and Kyler. You never know what these two, the status could be great throughout the week, and then they could just not play on Sunday. But if they're going, you're obviously putting them instantly into your lineups as wide receiver ones, QB1 for Murray and D-Hop. James Conner, he's a low end RB1, probably his last week if before Edmonds comes back. Conner will still have a role, so he's definitely not droppable. You keep him on your roster for sure. Zach Ertz, tight end one category. He's been very solid for Arizona since the trade. Season high in routes last week. Finished as D tight end one last week. And Christian Kirk is in that wide receiver 3 territory if D-Hop can't go. And on the Chicago side, mostly just trusting Dave Montgomery, low end RB2 for me in this matchup. Not really trusting either quarterback if one can go. Darnell Mooney, though, and Cole Kmet, those are the pass catchers I'm looking at every week on this team. Their upsides are probably capped for this matchup, but Mooney in the last 3 weeks have been a top 15 play wide receiver wise in PPR leagues. Kmet, my stream of the week, so both are definitely playable. And yeah, it doesn't matter if Allen Robinson is healthy or not. You're not playing.
Hey, I'm going to take the over here. I'm going to take Chicago to cover, actually. I'm going to take Arizona to win. On the Arizona side, expecting Kyler to return and immediately come back to top 5 status here. James Conner continues his reign as an RB1 for at least one more week. Could potentially see that upside capped a little bit with Kyler Murray back. Also, we know how much of a pest Kyler Murray could be for his own running backs around the goal line. So DeAndre Hopkins, top 12 wide receiver for me upon his return. Christian Kirk, wide receiver 3, I think, with D-Hop back in the mix. But a high-end wide receiver 3 for sure with a guy with some flex value. On the Chicago side, I actually think if Andy Dalton starts, I actually do like this pass game a little bit. The Arizona Cardinals on first and second down over their last 3 weeks are 32nd in drop back EPA. So that's definitely something to note there. So I think there could be had a little bit in the pass game. So that's wheels up for Darnell Mooney for me as well as a high-end wide receiver 2, I think, with some wide receiver 1 upside. Dave Montgomery has had good matchups and didn't come through, but still an RB2 for me this week. And then Cole Kmet is a top tight end play for me. this week. I know he's your stream of the week, obviously, so that's definitely an added bonus to play him, especially with Andy Dalton in at quarterback. I think we just see this pass game have a different kind of life when Andy Dalton is in there. You get a more traditional drop back passer there, and for your information, Greg, Allen Robinson is not even on my show notes, so do with that information what you will. Moving on to this next matchup, we got the 7-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Atlanta to take on a 5-6 Atlanta Falcons. This game has a 50.5 point total. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 10.5 point favorites here. Before we get into that, this game is in the dome, so don't worry about that. Tampa Bay in terms of injuries, or Atlanta in terms of injuries, they're okay. Tampa Bay in terms of injuries, mostly okay. Antonio Brown, obviously, we know, dealing with the ankle injury that's expected to keep him out these next 2 weeks. Would have sat these next 2 weeks anyway, as he's been suspended for violating COVID protocols by the NFL, so he'll be suspended these next 3 games, 2 of which he would have already missed for injury. So you won't get Antonio Brown back until week 16. So it's already in the midst of the fantasy playoffs. He should be presumably healthy from the ankle injury. It does give him an extra week than he actually needed to recover from the injury. So that's definitely good news there. In terms of the game here, I am going to take the under. I'm going to take Atlanta to cover. Going to take Tampa Bay to win. On the Atlanta side, Cordell Patterson, I think he's still got to be an RB1 for me. I mean, his usage last week was absolutely awesome. He should see pass game work in this game too, with them being 10.5 point dogs. I think Kyle Pitts is in a great spot. The Bucs got shredded by Jack Doyle last week, so Kyle Pitts has got to be, he's got to make an impact here against this Tampa Bay Buc defense that has struggled to cover the tight end. And then on the Tampa Bay side, Leonard Fournette, he's got to be an RB1 again. Tom Brady, a QB1. In terms of wide receiver, Chris Godwin is probably the wide receiver that I prefer, but he and Evans will both be ranked on that borderline wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 range for me. Gronk is back to being a tight end 1, especially with the continued absence of Antonio Brown there. So,
yeah, I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take Tampa to cover. I'm gonna take Tampa to win. Tom Brady, I think he can finish as DQB1 this week with this matchup and just how he's flowing so far. Fournette, also a monster matchup. He's going to continue to be RB1. You said no AB for another 3 weeks. So Godwin and Evans are both playable. Godwin's, I agree, has the higher upside. Is that wide receiver 1. Evans, wide receiver 2 category. And Gronk, I still like him as well, coming back as a low end tight end 1. And then on Atlanta side, Cordell Patterson, man, just continue to be your RB wide receiver 1. He's got to be definitely one of those fantasy MVP candidates because of how consistent he's been and the fact that he was undrafted everywhere. And Kyle Pitts, I do like him, low and tight end 1. Let's hope we can, get that upside back down the stretch.
Got to have that this week from Kyle Pitts, man. Moving on to this next matchup here, we got the 6-6 Indianapolis Colts traveling to Houston to take on the 2-9 Houston Texans. This game has a 46.5 point total. The Indianapolis Colts in this game are 8.5 point favorites here. This game will be played in the dome, so no weather concerns there. On the Indianapolis side, Jack Doyle, questionable with the knee, limited participant in practice on Thursday. On the Houston side, Christian Kirksey, the linebacker, he's making his return from injured reserve, dealing with a thumb injury. Wide receiver, Brandon Cooks and Chris Conley were both DNPs with an illness. David Johnson, he was a DNP with a thigh injury and an illness. So definitely something to watch there. Greg, where are you at with this matchup here?
With this matchup, going to go with the under. I'm going to go Indy to cover and Indy to win. Just sets up nicely for a JT day, and that's all I want to see. That's all I want. So if on the Indy side, they should just run it through JT. I'm hoping that it could kind of be like that Buffalo game where it just let him run the ball and let him continue to run the ball and close the game out. I do like Michael Pittman, but I wouldn't be surprised if his upside is capped if they do decide to run the ball heavy, but I do still have him in my wide receiver 2 category with some wide receiver 1 upside if he gets a touchdown. And on the Houston side, still Brandon Cooks. That's the only one I'm really looking at in this matchup for sure. Jack Doyle as well has some intrigue on the Indy side for tight ends.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over here. Going to take Indy to cover. Going to take Indy to win. For Houston, Tyrod has some streaming appeal for me in a nice matchup here. You could see Rex Burkhead utilized as the every down back potentially with David Johnson out. So makes for a nice RB3 with some RB2 upside here because the floor is the roof for Rex Burkhead. Brandon Cooks he's been okay in recent weeks, but you got to continue to roll him out there in this matchup here. On the Indy side, JT, I'm with you. I think they need to feed this man. I mean, if you just look at the last game that they played against Tampa Bay, they didn't feed him at all in the first half. Didn't have a single carry. Jonathan Taylor didn't in the third quarter, but finished with 80-something yards rushing because they just fed him in the fourth quarter. It makes you think like, oh, well, what would happen if you did that for 4 quarters? So either way, I think JT gets fed this week.
Yes, sir.
Michael Pittman Jr., of course, that's our guy. So he's a wide receiver 2 for me as well. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Although I am legally obligated to give out this information as a so-called fantasy analyst. T.Y. Hilton's playing the Texans. Do with that information.
Is that like his team that he does? Like,
man. T.Y.
like
Hilton
historic games?
Texans. Yes, absolutely. 100%. So I'm just legally obligated to divulge this information here on the podcast. I do with that information what you will.
Amen.
Moving on to this next matchup here, an interesting one to us, Greg, because we'll be in the house.
Yes, sir.
5-7 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to MetLife to take on the 3-8 New York Jets. There will be a lot of green in that stadium. 45.5 point total. Philadelphia Eagles are 7-point favorites. In terms of the weather's actually okay in this one. Thank God for us.
Thank God, we're happy about that.
Philadelphia quarterback Jalen Hurts. He's questionable with an ankle, but he said that he will play. So
we have to let him know you need to play. That's why.
Yeah, we was gonna return these tickets if you wasn't playing.
Facts.
Boston Scott was a DNP with an illness. Jordan Howard, a DNP with a knee injury. Jack Driscoll on the offensive line, he's on IR with an ankle. On the Jet side, Corey Davis, he was a DNP with the groin on Thursday. That actually kept him out of last week's game, so it's not looking good right now for him. Wide receiver Keelan Cole, he's out with COVID, so that's already 2 wide receivers down for the New York Jets there. For me here, I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to take Philly to cover. I'm going to take Philly to win. For the Jets, it could be tough. Elijah Moore, obviously the most notable Jets player in Fantasyland, has a tough matchup with Darius Slay. Philly has been good against wide receivers, so I would look elsewhere if I could afford to. I know in some deeper leagues, he's the
you got to play him.
Yeah, I got to play him. So he's in my flex there. But Tevin Coleman could be safe, but I'm not expecting much from him. We'll get the volume there in the rush game. I am curious though, because the way to attack this Philly defense is in the middle of the field with your tight ends. Ryan Griffin, not a tight end that you want to play. So I'm curious to see with them hurting at receiver. You remember Denzel Mims is already on the COVID list. Keelan Cole's now on the COVID list. Corey Davis is probably out. So it'll be Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder, maybe some Braxton Berrios. Do these inside receivers have some kind of role here? Because I don't know how else the Jets are going to attempt to move the ball on Sunday. But on the Philadelphia side, Jalen Hurts, top 3 quarterback option for me against a Jets defense that's just been giving it up in recent weeks to the quarterback position. Miles Sanders, a nice RB2 option this week with obvious upside for more against a bad New York Jets run defense. Devontae Smith, a wide receiver 2 with definitely upside for more, but I don't think he has a huge game this week. The Jets, again, they've been pretty good against wide receivers. In recent weeks, they've been bad, especially with the loss of Marcus May, but they actually were okay against Brandon Cooks for most of that game last week, and it's not like Philadelphia has a ton of pass weapons to be concerned with. So I think Devontae Smith probably maybe doesn't get that boom game that we like to see. But Dallas Goedert, though, I think is a really nice tight end one option this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take Philly to cover and Philly to win. The Jets have in the last 11 games against the Eagles 0-11. So it's for those people out there, bettors, for us Sunday. But yeah, I do like on the Eagles side, Jalen Hurts season. You already know he's gonna eat in this matchup against this Jets defense. Miles Sanders as well. Definitely an RB2, solid RB2 option. The pass catchers, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. I think Goddard has more upside in this matchup for sure. And on the Jet side, yeah, you got to keep plugging in Elijah Moore until he busts for you. But like he's still the play every week. I think his upside is capped though because Eagles have been really good on the perimeter. Crowder though I think could have a little upside, so I think he's a play in deeper leagues. And yeah, I'm just hoping for a really really good game here.
You picked the wrong one, Greg. Moving on to this next matchup here, we've got the 6-5 Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Cincinnati to take on the 7-4 Cincinnati Bengals. This game has a 50.5 point total. Bengals are 3-point favorites. Really nice game here that we got coming. In terms of weather, though, be mindful. There's expected to be some snow in the morning in Cincinnati, so definitely be mindful of that. As we get closer to the afternoon, it's expected that the snow actually becomes rain. So could be quite of a mess here for this game. Seems like that's something that we want to keep a track of. Be mindful of as we get closer to kickoff. In terms of injuries, Cincinnati's okay, but the Chargers, cornerback Asante Samuel Jr., he's questionable with a concussion injury. He did not participate in practice on Wednesday. I don't have his Thursday status as of yet, but definitely be mindful of that for the pass game for the Chargers because the Chargers were actually a pretty good pass defense on the year, but in recent weeks they've slipped. I wonder if Asante Samuel Jr., his absence has anything to do with that. But Greg, where are you at with this matchup here, man?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Cincinnati to cover and Cincinnati to win. This is definitely the most exciting game for me on this entire week. I mean, two of the best quarterbacks from last year, two rookie quarterbacks, coming in this year. Joe Burrow's been my guy. Herbert's been everyone else's guy. This is gonna be a great matchup between these two sophomore year quarterbacks on the LA
you're
Chargers.
Not claiming Herbert right now?
I am, but Burrow.
You just didn't. You just.
I am, but in this matchup, I am picking Cincinnati to win. I do. Joey B is my guy. He's my dynasty quarterback. Like I took him first overall, well, not first overall, but like my first overall pick. Like
it's the Herb.
I know it's the Herb. My heart has like a lot of Joey B too, like in it though. Like it's tough, yo. It's tough.
I hear you. Go ahead.
On the Charger side though, Herbert. QB1, Eckler, RB1, Keenan Allen, wide receiver 1. I mean, Mike Williams, he's a boomer bust, wide receiver 3. If he's gonna hit, he does hit in that wide receiver 2 category. But if not, it's basically almost unplayable. Jared Cook, he has some streaming value in this one. On Cincinnati side, Joe Burrow, QB1 in this matchup. Joe Mixon, high in RB1, and Higgins and Chase. Those two have been good down the stretch. Higgins, they're both high in wide receiver 2s for me. I think they have some wide receiver 1 upside. Boyd has kind of been the man left out, so we just got to accept it at this point. And yeah, I'm just really hyped for this game. Like I just really need to see who's gonna have the better game in this one because they're gonna be compared for the rest of the careers. These two.
Definitely, man. I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to take Cincinnati to cover. Going to take Cincinnati to win. Again, this game has a ton of intrigue. I mean, Justin Herbert was the third quarterback taken. Joe Burrow was the first quarterback taken in their class. Obviously, Herbert had the historical season. Joey B, he was playing really well until he got hurt. But Joe Burrow looks like he's on top of the world right now, especially coming off a big win last week against Pittsburgh. So, again, has a ton of intrigue. Joe Mixon, for me, continues his domination here. I think he gets another top 5 week coming along. Joe Burrow, definitely interesting here in what should be an interesting game, but he's just outside QB1 territory for me. T. Higgins leads his team in target share over the last few weeks, also continuing. So I'm, definitely going to continue to play him, but also going to continue to play Jamar Chase. I mean, that upside, that's still there, even though it hasn't been here in recent weeks. You also got to look at the game script that they've been in. These are a lot of big wins for the Bengals. No need to really air it out. So in a game like this, where we're expecting some back and forth nature to it, I think Jamar Chase definitely has a ton of upside. For the Chargers, simply just play the triplets, man. Herbert, Eckler, Allen, those three ones at their positions. I mean, look, man, we get Keenan Allen to catch a couple more touchdowns. In my bold prediction, about 3 top 5 players coming out the Chargers, one at quarterback, one at wide receiver, one at running back, looking pretty good. So Keenan Allen just catch some touchdowns down the stretch, man. Mike Will, wide receiver 3 for me, like you said. He's definitely boomer bust. If boomer bust was a person, it is Mike Williams.
Yep.
Jared Cook, my stream of the week, has some streamable value and a good matchup against Cincinnati. But other than that, that's really it for me on the Chargers side.
Yeah, rely on that big 3.
Definitely. Moving on to our final game here, the final matchup that we'll cover in this 1 p.m. slate of games. We got the 4-6 New York Giants. This can't be right, this record I have here for the Dolphins. It's got to be 5-7. The Dolphins.
Yes, 5-7. You're right.
Yeah, the Dolphins are 5-7. This game has a 41.5 point total. The Dolphins are 3-point favorites. In terms of the weather, it's supposed to be okay. It's in South Florida, so 79-degree weather, potentially some rain. On the Miami side, Philip Lindsay, he was a DNP with an ankle injury. So that's something to note there. Seems like Myles Gaskin could get the bulk of the work here, as we saw Philip Lindsay get 12 carries last week in his first game with the Dolphins. On the Giants side, a bunch of guys sidelined at practice, both sides of the ball, but the biggest injured guys we have here, Daniel Jones was limited with a neck. At first, it seemed like he was definitely out this next game, and a neck injury that he suffered in the previous game, but was able to finish. However, Freddie Kitchens came out and said that there's still a possibility that Daniel Jones plays, got in a limited practice. So really curious to see what happens here with Daniel Jones and if he plays. Sterling Shepard, he was limited with the quad injury that's kept him out these last couple games. And then Kadarius Toney, who, for whatever reason, like, this dude can't stay healthy. He was a DNP with the quad injury, dealing with he's dealing with that quad injury, so that kept him out last week, and he was a DNP. So I'm curious to see if he follows the same, the same method that Sterling Shepard has followed here, with dealing with his own quad injury. In terms of the matchup here, I will take the over. I will take the Dolphins to cover. I will take the Dolphins to win the matchup here. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 1, just continue to roll him out there. In terms of PPR leagues, he's got as safe of a floor as they come here. Tua, I have down as a high-end QB2. That's not because he's not playing well. Tua is playing absolutely phenomenal, especially over recent weeks. And Greg, you obviously know that it doesn't pain me to say it. Like, I'll say it. But obviously not the biggest Tua guy coming into the year. So Myles Gaskin, got him down as an RB3. If Philip Lindsay doesn't play, I think that boosts a little bit of his upside in the run game. And Mike Gesicki, man, I don't know what to do with this guy. He's legit disappeared in the last 3 weeks. I think you might have to sit him if you have another option. I mean, like a guy like Logan Thomas, I think I would definitely start in this matchup here that he has against Vegas. On the Detroit. On the Giants side, right now,
might as well be Detroit, man. It might as well be Detroit.
Right now, it's just Saquon for me, man. But if Shepard plays, if he plays, it's a big if. And Daniel Jones plays. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I'll go Shepard even if Daniel Jones doesn't play, because I think he's a real nice play against a Miami pass defense that primarily runs a lot of man-to-man coverage. He'll be in the slot, so he'll be away from their better corners. And we know that even if he catches 8 balls for 60 yards, that's still, decent day there in the PPR league. So, Greg, all this being said, what say you on this matchup, man?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take Miami to cover. I'm gonna take Miami to win. I'm not sure when the Giants had last played Miami, but I remember the last time the Giants players were in Miami. This is when they had the photo, and it's all been downhill from there. They played the Packers in the playoffs, and it's just been downhill from there. On the Giants side, like, I honestly don't see any intrigue in any of the players. Saquon, because of his name, I have him as in RB3 category, but this team has just been offensively, it's just been pretty bad. Both defenses have been pretty solid over the last couple of weeks. The Giants always had a solid defense. Miami is getting much better over the last 3 to 4 weeks, creating turnovers like they did last year. On Miami side, I like Tua. I agree with you. High in QB2. His completion percentage over the last 2 weeks have been over 80% each of the last 2 games. Gaskin, I do like a little more. He's been coming on strong lately. Last 3 of the last 4 weeks, he's been in PPR RB1 category. I have him as a high in RB2 in this one. He's averaging over 18 carries in the last 4 weeks, so he's getting a lot of volume. Jalen Waddle, I agree with you. Low on wide receiver 1. He's averaging close to 9 targets a game. And yeah, Mike Gesicki, I have him like high in tight end 2, like low in tight end 1 category. I would still start Logan Thomas, like a Pat Frymurph. I would start over him. It's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, the Giants, I don't see anybody to really be hyped to play over. Yeah, Sterling couldn't even finish the game. He might come in and get hurt. Like him and Tony are like the same. Like it's crazy. Like I don't even know why I'm wearing a sweatshirt. Like it's crazy. Like I'm so upset this year about this team. It's the most boring team to watch in football.
They really did a great job of finding Sterling Shepard's eventual replacement.
Yep. Someone's going to produce when he's in, but when he's in is like a big if.
At least Kadarius Toney, and maybe it's because he's a little younger, got a little more fresh legs. At least he finishes the game injured. He'll play and you'll see he's injured, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look good. And then he comes back,
right?
But then he's out for the next 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah, and I don't want to drop him because I've got Kadarius Toney littered in a few leagues, and I don't want to drop him because I'm like,
the talent is just so there. It's crazy.
Talent is good. I just think about that 10 for 189 game, and I was like, he's got Dallas in a couple weeks. I'm like, hey,
man,
189, like it's coming. It's coming. I don't know. But anyway, everybody, that covers the 1 p.m. matchups here. So we appreciate y'all for kicking it with us. Again, we did the confidence level stuff. I actually put up a poll on my Twitter account at JRFootballNerd on Twitter. So if you want to go vote on the poll, we did the confidence levels. I've actually got more players than we actually discussed on there. So you could, if you want to see where the results are on guys like Alvin Kamara, Elijah Mitchell, Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson, DK Metcalf, and company, definitely go check it out. But thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, just make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you stay plugged in with us because we're trying to get you these chips.
Yes, sir.
So with that being said, y'all, we appreciate y'all. Make sure you come back for part 2. We'll break down the remaining games, starts of the week, play some get money. I think, did you win last week, Greg, or did I win?
I ain't gonna check it, honestly, but I'm okay.
But anyways, we'll confirm that before the next show. But everybody, have a good one, and we're out of here. Peace.
We out.